to greet you in Jesus' name. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this recording. On behalf of River of Delight Ministry, I want to welcome you all to a series of podcasts where we're going to deal with current issues affecting our nation. We all know that there are many places in Malaysia that were terribly affected by the floods. And I have here in our home studio a wonderful friend of mine, Mr. Josh, who so willingly availed himself for this first recording. He was at the ground zero in Taman Sri Muda. And I want to welcome him. And I'm going to ask him 5 questions, maybe more, according to how the flow is going to be. But basically, to find out how we as a church can continue to be relevant in times of crisis. Now we're talking about the floods. It could be fire, it could be any other kind of displacement or anything that affects our community. The challenge is to see how the church can be relevant. Okay, so welcome, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. Shake
No
hand.
problem.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
I have sent you some questions, and thank you to your wife. Thanks, Mark, for helping me do the recording. My wife is on holiday now. Okay, the first question, Josh. You have had first-hand experience, the ground zero, Taman Sri Muda. What is your first impression when you went in? What is it that would remain in your heart? Anything that disturbs you? And you can answer me just anyhow you want.
Okay, disturb. I don't know how to explain that because I think there was more of something that was kept moving. Because first is when you go in there and you see the condition of the place, and it feels like you just entered a war zone. Everything was messy, thrown, splashed all over the place, mud. This was really like a war zone. Piles and piles of rubbish in one corner, and it's like you're watching a zombie movie because all the cars were in different locations and parked in different ways. Some were smashed, not people smashed it, but the flood. The windows were smashed, mud caked all over the place. So it was like a war zone. So that was the initial shock. So that also I would say is disturbing. But also more than that is that these people didn't have help come when the floods hit them really hard on the first day. Many of them were stuck for almost more than 24 hours.
Okay.
So this also means that it could happen to any one of us. It may not be a flooding situation; it could be something else, and it will take very long for the help that we expect to come to eventually be there. So if you ask disturbing, so it starts from there, how you first saw the condition of the place, and then what they had to go through and all that. Yeah.
Okay. You want to explain why exactly you were there in Taman Sri
Yeah,
Muda?
sure. So we had a friend who was actually stuck for 24. I want to say slightly more than 24 hours before she was rescued. So her house was in an absolute mess. So we had offered to go and just help clean the place and take some of her valuables out and see what else help that we can do also to the people around there. So that was our main objective, to go there. And it's not something that can be done in 2 days or 3 days. This will take months in terms of to clean the house, to clean the street, to clean the entire Taman Sri Muda. It's going to take a while. And you will need a lot of hands on deck. But yeah, it's not something that's going to be done very quickly.
You mentioned we. So you had a group of people with you?
First is basically anybody that was available to go and help us. So we just, whoever was available, let's go, because if you're free, let's go. So I think the first day it was just me and my mom. And then the second day it was my mom, my mother-in-law, mom's sister, and a few church members had come and also helped to clean the place, to take out whatever is valuable. And there were certain things that happened, like that needs to be mitigated. So, like her door was destroyed. her main door, our friend's main door, was destroyed by the flood. So now this leaves the house exposed. And I think you would have also read about all this looting and all taking place, right? So that would leave a huge opportunity for those that want to
Security
Yeah.
issue.
So having to do something about that exposed house was also something that we were looking at. Yeah. So that's the 2 days that we were there. So yeah.
So when you said when you went there, so would you say that your church or at least the believers community were um, immediately affected by it, so that you could follow up by acting, by going there and actually helping somebody? Would you say your people were that, or were you forced to do that?
No, I don't think anybody was forced to do it. Everyone was there willingly. Everyone was there because they felt it as a burden to go there and help. Not just our friend, but whoever that was there. So we wish we could do more, but then there was just so much to be done along with our friend's house. So I mean, but the little things that we saw other people doing willingly is what that moved me, because a lot of people would think like, no, I do want to come and help, but I don't know what to do. I don't know, because you seem to already have someone to clean your house. You seem to already have someone to, fix the door or whatever. But to be very honest, if you just go there, you will see how you can help people. And I was very moved by this couple. I don't know if they're a couple or what they were, but there was just this man and lady. They set up this table, and all they were doing is they brought these power banks, and they were just saying free charging. So if your phone is dying or whatever, you just go there and then charge it. So it is not something like you're helping a particular family, you're just helping that situation at that time, right? I do not know how much of this was authorized by DBKR or were they there on their own merit, but DBKR was ferrying people from one point to another because roads were closed. So we had to park really far away to go to the actual flooded areas, right? So DBKR had organized for their four-wheel drives to just ferry people. You see, but you got to be there to see, oh, okay, here's a need, I can help. Okay, here's a need, I can help. But if you sit back and go, I want to help, but I don't know, because you seem to, you already have this taken care, you already have that taken care. So, okay, just be there and you will see how you can help. So the other thing is, for the few of us that were there, we were not getting hungry, and there was no food. And there was no food around. No, so if somebody went there and opened a food truck, he would do really well. But there was no food around. So I had to walk to my car, which was a half an hour walk. From there, take my car and go and find the nearest restaurant. And mind you, I'm in Sri Muda. Everything's flooded. Everything's closed. Shell station, everything's closed. We had to go and find food and bring back. So I just bought food for the people that were in the house working. So as I was walking back, I can tell you with absolute certainty, the people that were staring at me, it's just so many, because they all wanted food. And I was carrying it to the people that were in the house. But those guys didn't have anything. Because they were busy cleaning, right? And really there was no food around. There was water being given, but there is no food. They have to really, go far for that. So if you just brought a bunch of kebabs or sandwiches, something that they can, just eat quickly and work, that'd be great. But you're going to be there to know that, okay, here's what I can do. If you sit back and go, I want to help, I don't know how, nothing's going to happen. Go there and you will see the need, and you will respond to that need.
Okay, two things I want to ask before I go to the next question.
Yeah.
You said you went there because there's a friend.
Yeah.
Would that be enough motivation for others to say, hey, there are some friends there? Doesn't matter if it's of our race and there are other friends who are there. I would like to go there and help. Would that be enough motivation? Or it doesn't matter they are friends or not. There is a need. We want to go and help. Would that be adequate motivation? What would have motivated you?
Having a friend there is a motivation, but it shouldn't be the sole motivation. You can go there because there is a need. I went there because I found out that my friend's house was exposed, and she was alone. I mean, her children are overseas, so she's alone here. So we needed to go and help. Why I didn't carry on going there is because after 2 days I injured my back, and I couldn't do anything further from there. I couldn't bend down to pick things up, and also I took a break from helping. But
Okay.
yes, my initial motivation was because my friend was there. I would have carried on if not. As a matter of fact, I had actually signed up with another church to go yesterday to clean up, not because of a friend, just in general,
Okay.
but because of my back, I had to pull up. Not yesterday,
Okay.
day before, Tuesday. But because of my back, I had to pull up. So having to know that someone you know is suffering is a motivation, sure, but it shouldn't be the sole motivation.
So,
You have people suffering and they need help, and they don't have help coming from the places that where help needs to come from.
okay. I don't want to push that issue, but we know that from all the news from YouTube that the people who should be there at the first frontliners, first what do you call it, people to be there were not there. But I also see a lot of videos where there was a lot of interaction between races just to help each other. How do you see that? Did you see that in video where the people of various races were coming together to help one another?
So you're right, Pastor. There was engagement between different races in terms of assistance and help. And that was very comforting to watch. They didn't care if they were from a particular ethnicity or from a particular racial background. All they saw was suffering people. There's a need. And if I can respond to that need, I'm going to go down and do it. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what their background is. Are they in need? If yes, I'm going to be there. So that was very encouraging to see. So what you watched on the various platforms and all were true. And actually, I'm very happy to see that happen. It's very, very encouraging to see that happen, because I think race is a very sensitive matter in this country. It can also create tensions. But when we see that a tension has come from something outside of race, you see all the race coming together to handle that, which is very, very encouraging. Yeah.
Given to come back to the church, we know in Malaysia that November, December are the monsoon season and the rain, they come.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop them. And we know in East Coast, Peninsula East Coast, there's always been floods. And these kind of floods like in Sri Muda and all, it's not the first time. Many times it has happened.
Yeah.
And we know, and when I say we know, I'm talking about as a church. We know it. What is it that we could do to not be interactive but proactive? For example, knowing that there will be floods during the November, December season that actually comes along on Christmas season. In a season of giving, can we be, instead of reactive, okay, the flood is there, so what can we do? Instead of saying that the flood is going to come, what can we do? What kind of a thing can we do as a church? What do you think we could do? And what I want to find out from you would be, if we say we need to be proactive, could you think of something we could do the rest of the year so that we are prepared for November and December?
So, your first question, what can we do? I think there are many things that we can do, but then also at the same time there are many things that we should do. I mean, we can do, that's nice to know that we can do this, this and this, but the more important thing is that we should do. I think we've also come to a place where we wait for the disaster, we wait for a bad thing to happen, and then we respond. But from the way you frame the question, what I'm getting from you is that before the disaster can happen, is there like a fence we can build? Is there something that we can do to prepare to mitigate the disaster should it happen? At least that's what I'm hearing when you say that.
Yeah.
So I think there are things that can be done, and you will need many heads to come together to discuss what can be done. So this is more of like crisis response.
Okay.
This is more of responding to a crisis when it actually takes place. So in this situation, I suppose so we know floods is going to happen, and maybe to prepare for aids, to prepare to evacuate people if you see that the rain is a little bit more constant.
Okay.
Right? So, but you need people in place to do that, and you need to make sure that maybe you need to buy boats, right, to do that. But yeah, I think to be more proactive before it actually happens to prepare yourself. Your second question was what again? You mentioned.
Yeah, what are the things that we could do, knowing that this is a givenness in our Malaysian society?
Yeah, okay.
The November, December will be
Sure,
the
sure.
months where heavy rains will come, and that could be floods.
Okay, so it's basically goes back to my question, the first one, right, where you put in places, you put in aid, you put in infrastructure to know to that can mitigate the
Yeah.
disaster when it happens. But we're talking about floods today.
Yeah.
I am going to go one step forward and think of disastrous situations.
Okay.
I'm going to go one step forward and think of just emergency situations, and maybe the church being emergency responders. So, at when an emergency situation arises, how is the church going to respond?
Okay.
So today it was the floods. So we think of okay, next year let's think of maybe coming up with a committee where we can think of buying boats, prepare people for evacuation if the rains are constant. But also that's floods, right? But we also must think of situation if there was a fire, if there was an earthquake, if there was a tsunami, and maybe even in situations where there are unlawful detentions,
Okay.
when somebody goes missing. I think the church needs to be a bit more proactive. Now, I'm very clear when I say this, and I'm very sure also that this is all easier said than done, because this will mean more manpower, and this will mean a lot of courage. I mean, what if one day you yourself go missing because of what you're doing? You run that risk as well, right? But I think that is a risk that we should take upon ourselves, because it could happen to any one of us. That unlawful detention could happen to any one of us. That we go missing with no explanation can happen to any one of us. So then, are we going to keep quiet about it? No. So we as a church need to come up with a system where we respond to this emergency situation. If not, there is no voice. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I may be crossing points here, but somewhere in Proverbs it says that we should stand up for those that don't have a voice, and that sort of in some way ties into what I'm saying, because responding to emergency is not just situations like fire and flood. Those are there. I'm not saying they're not there, but the arch is much bigger.
Okay.
To emergency.
Okay. I can understand that totally. But I want to come back once again to the floods. For example, that yes, we have got. I admit there are many forms of crisis.
Yeah.
But something that is so regular is
Yeah.
the floods. I'm saying something to listen and see if it is too far fetched, too outlandish,
Yeah.
or too much of the coming out of the comfort zone. For example, I'm saying, is it possible for the churches to actually purchase boats, the inflatable boats? I'm saying, to keep it in store so that when a time comes, when they know they're in November, December, to be ready to mobilize this
Yeah.
with the responsible NGOs,
Yeah.
because not everybody can man a boat. There
Yes,
need to be
yes.
some kind of a
You should be
training.
able to. Yes.
There also need to be some kind of a training in the church where people will know how to behave
Yeah.
in a crisis situation, like in the floods.
Yeah.
Something like electrocution. We need to be careful so that to make sure that the main power point is cut and things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, is it possible for the churches? We may not say a local church, but if there are some churches, young people who come together, or people of interest, they come together, can we not collect the money, don't keep the cash, but monetize it and buy boats and keep, if it's possible, actual boats. And anybody, any house, we can have a boat, we can store a boat. All we need is a proper transporting of this boat to the place where where the need is. Is it possible? Is it something practical?
So I'm sure it is possible, but also we need to think that we need to consider the economical sense of it. So that if we buy something and only end up using it once a year, it may not make much economical sense. But I know what you mean, but maybe instead of buying, we can rent it. So when the emergency or when the crisis pops up, we can rent it. We can also rent the services or engage the services of the boatman to actually go inside and do. I'm sure many people had done that, but quite late during
Yeah.
this flood period. So buying it and storing it, I mean, all this is economically, I'm not sure it's viable. And also, you got to get into the buy-ins from your church board and all of that. So to buy something and only use it once a year, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But or use it whenever the crisis pops up. But renting it, yeah, sure. And engaging in the services of the person to also do it, yes, definitely. But I know where you're coming from, where you say that the church plays a role in doing this. So that's definitely, you have my vote for that. The church playing an active role in mitigating this crisis, absolutely.
How would you then see, how would you sell this idea to a church? I'm not talking about a big number, maybe about 2, 3 local churches. We all know that somehow or other, somebody that we know were affected. My sister's home was totally deluded, right up to the roof, and I get to know that the roof itself is damaged. That means the whole house,
Okay.
terrace house, is totally damaged. The people who are renting the place, they 100% lost. They will not go, they couldn't go to the first floor because it's a ground floor.
Yeah.
It's a single story terrace
Yeah.
house. So I know that everybody would have got this. Could it be possible for the church to save money? Like for instance, inflatable boats don't cost much. I'm not selling a particular idea.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that is it possible for the church to be more proactive? Because I know that when the floods came, all they needed boats. And you remember this Abang Viva, I don't know if some of you would have heard of that, who took his boat, put it
yes,
up on
yes.
a Viva,
Right.
and drove right
Okay,
up
yes,
from
yes.
Malacca. He drove down. And I thought that was he was not being a hero, but he was meant to be a hero because
Yeah.
he gave something that was useful.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that instead of, can't the church be playing a game, not a game,
Role.
a role like that,
Yeah.
where we avail our assets to the people. And if the others were to come, fine. The more the better, because that quickly we can evacuate the people.
Yeah.
The other one that I'm thinking about is food. You mentioned food. Is it possible for the church, rather than just raising money, setting up good places where, if there is a crisis, you can quickly mobilize cooking to be done, packing to be done, and some transporting to be done, logistics done so that the food is brought to the place where the need is. Is it something that only a particular group of people must do? Can't the church also be involved? Can't the church do it? We are not copying, but I'm saying that can't we share it? Because at the end of the day, that particular people who were doing it, the Gurdwara who was doing it, they couldn't meet the needs. There were others who had come together.
Yes.
I've not seen a church doing it.
Sure.
But I'm saying, is it possible for the church to be ready, as much as we want to be ready for Christmas, to be ready in this way, to be readily equipped with training in crisis situation, in at least having 2 inflatable boats, which can be actually folded and put packed well, and also a kitchen. We have soup kitchen, but is it possible for us to be geared towards having a cooking done so that food can be sent? Do you think it is something that can be done?
I think it's something that can be done, but the word that you used, which is to sell it to the churches, right? There needs to be a buy. And I do not know how many of them will buy. Today, the life has changed so much. It's become so demanding. I don't know how many people can actually put aside time to do this. Although I think it is important that they put aside time to do this. So I just want to quote St. Francis of Assisi. He said that, preach the gospel. If necessary, use words. So your deeds is going to play a bigger role in preaching the gospel. So your question on can't the church do this? And I like how you phrased it. We prepare ourselves for Christmas. We get busy, church programs and stuff like that. We should also prepare ourselves for a crisis to happen and how we respond to it. I don't think it is something that is far fetched. I don't think it is something that is difficult to achieve. As a matter of fact, I think if everyone comes together, like-minded people, and their aim is to just to be able to respond to a need, yeah, you have that. But that selling that idea is going to. I'm not sure how much of. It's a good idea. Nobody's going to say, Pastor Herbert, this is a rubbish idea. Nobody's going to say that. It's all about. It's a good idea, but you may need to ask this person, this person.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing. So how can I be a blessing or instrument of help? That Viva chap that we mentioned,
yeah.
right? See, all he did, I suppose, all he had in his mind is, hang on, how can I help now? I got a boat, so I can take it there. How can I help? That's all one person has to think. When a crisis emerges, all you need to say is, what can I do? What do I have? I have a car. I can move. I can buy. So what can I do to better help the situation? It's foolish to ask that question.
Okay.
And yeah, just remember what St. Francis of
Interesting.
Assisi
Very
said.
interesting, isn't it? Okay. Okay. More and more. Two more questions and we can
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Sure.
Kita jaga kita. It has become more than a cliched word. Literally, kita jaga kita.
Yeah.
I just want to see how the church can take that kita jaga kita and become practical. More than words. Is there enough motivation? Should there be enough motivation for the young people in the church or the people in the church to rise up, to be physically present in a place where there is a crisis? Is it difficult to motivate people? Christians, I'm talking about.
Let's go one step ahead. How did Kita Jaga Kita come about? I think, and I need to be fact-checked, I stand to be corrected, but I think Kita Jaga Kita came about when people realized that those who are supposed to Jaga Kita are not. So now we have to Kita Jaga Kita, right? So to some extent, I think it was good because we've come to realize that we have to be there for each other because if not, the people that are supposed to take care of us is not. Look, we are always supposed to be there for each other. We're always supposed to look out for each other, right? But sometimes I think the demands of life and your own needs, your own family all comes into the picture. So we forget that. But when a move like this takes place, or a move like this takes place where you realize that those that are supposed to take care of you are not, so you have to, pretty much take care of yourself, it's a good thing. But your question also about can this be a motivation for the people in church to do something about it? Certainly, but let's not wait for a Kita Jaga Kita to become really bad before we do something. Let's do something before, because that's what we're called to do.
Okay.
I mean, Kita Jaga Kita started off because we realized that we're kind of helpless, so we kind of have to be there for each other. So you're a rakyat, I am a rakyat, so we've got to be there for each other because they are not. That's great, but let's not wait for something bad like that to happen for us to realize, hey, I'm going to be there for you, you've got to be there for me. Let's start that idea now itself.
Okay. What steps can we take? We know there are dangers, when there's a flood and a fire. There are some dangers. If we are not prepared well, we may become the most dangerous people or the most people causing hindrance for people who are actually intending to help. Is it really possible for a church to be equipped properly, educated in the way of relief management, so that we are intelligent when we go to help? Would that be something that sellable? Is it sellable in the church? Or should it be sellable?
So you're probably also asking, should the church be relevant? You're probably also asking that should church make its mark in the society and in the nation? Or should they just restrict themselves to Bible study, cell groups, Sunday worship service, and that's about it? To all those questions, yes, it is very important that the church is relevant, because when you say that, should they be trained and equipped to respond to such things, you're asking them to be more relevant. You're asking them to be more engaging and more participatory. So it's going to be a difficult sell, because you don't have a precedent to look at. Maybe there is in the past churches, or in the past in Malaysia, how churches started, maybe there is some precedent, but I think a lot of it has to some extent been a bit blurry or forgotten. So the sell is going to be a challenge, but the need, is it important? Yes. The selling to them, it's going to be it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But because what you're asking is, should the church be relevant? Absolutely.
Okay. Now, who should be the one to do the selling? Now, you stand at a place where you were there. You knew what is happening. If I were to ask you to come and share with some churches, some communities, the need there, and the urgent need to be trained, would you be willing to come and help us?
Yeah, certainly. But when you ask who, it doesn't have to be a person of rank or position. You just have to find like-minded people to carry this message across. So it could be a pastor, it could be a person that is manning the car park in your church, it could be the person collecting your offertory, it could be anyone. As long as he has the same burden and he has the same vision, he just needs to communicate that vision now to those that cannot see that picture. It doesn't have to come from yourself, a pastor or a bishop. It doesn't have to. It can be anyone who has the same burning need to make the church relevant, to make the church leave its print in the society and in the nation that we live in.
Thank you so much, Josh.
You're welcome.
Maybe we'll wrap it up here. And friends, I hope you were following the stories that Josh was sharing. One of the things that we could take away would be the quotation that Josh told about St. Francis. I will ask him to say it again.
Share the gospel, if necessary, use words.
So, we are not being critical of the church. Definitely, I'm not wanting to be a critical person, to criticize or to be judgmental. But what I'm saying, what is my intention is that many of you would hear this, and the question that you would ask is, how can I equip myself to be relevant, to be intelligently be involved in the next crisis that comes, or even in this crisis, because you know that the people who were affected in Sri Muda, in Dunkil, and also in other parts of Shagalam, their lifestyle would have changed forever, and their coming out of the financial constraints would take years. So we may want to even now prepare ourselves and see for the next year, even at the middle of the year when this rainy seasons come, some or other for the church, the young people, the young adults, even the old, if we can take a risk of equipping ourselves to learn about crisis management, to get involved, to go to that place, I think would make a great, great testimony for the church. And I think more than, yes, we want to be a testimony for Jesus, but I think what Jesus also told us was, we are first and foremost humanity. I think we need to relate ourselves with humanity. I hope what was shared today was useful for you to think about. And if you are interested to know more, you can contact me, because then we can have a longer conversation of seeing what can be done, what solid things can be done, or what constructive things, constructive thoughts that can come so that we can make some big decisions. Thank you so much, and thank you, Josh, for being with us. And I want to thank your wife for helping us to record this place, to thank my wife, and God bless. Bye.